We are live. Welcome back, ladies. We are here with the Expert Talk series, and I've got Lindsay Keefe back here with us today because we're going to do a movement audit.
Yes.
Right? Doesn't that sound cool? I know, I can't wait. So the reason why we decided to do a movement audit is because yoga, hang on, yoga, what's it called again?
Yoga therapy.
Yoga therapy, there's like when I first heard of it, I was like, what? Yoga therapy, what is that? Right? So we want to do a movement audit so you ladies can kind of see what yoga therapy is. Oh my God, I'm having a hard time talking today.
That's okay, it's Friday.
And I think maybe I had a bad sugar day yesterday. That's what happens to my head.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good idea. And here's Lindsay. So Lindsay, you want to give us a quick rundown what we're going to do today?
Yeah, so thanks for having me back. This will be kind of like a mini private session online so people can get a sense of, what they might expect in a yoga therapy session. It's going to be super condensed. We're not going through the whole intake and assessment, but I can kind of get a sense of what you might need, and then we'll look at your movement and see where the movement breaks down. And so that often is what keeps us stuck in the patterns of, pain or not being able to develop the strength that we want. So when we can kind of refine those movement patterns, we can bring more strength and stability back into some of the weaker areas.
Right. I love it already. Okay, so here are my problems. So I've had like about 5 whiplashes, 1 concussion, that's 1. So I was getting a headache every month, so I could feel it building every month, and then sometimes I would get the headache and sometimes I wouldn't, just by taking an Advil. So literally it was every month I would feel the pressure building, and then I would get a headache. Either I would get it or just take an Advil. That's 1. And 2, what else have I done to myself? My left side also moves differently than my right side. And I think it's partially because my left shoulder likes to anteriorly rotate and my right shoulder is fine. I also notice that when I do these, when I'm lying on my back on the floor and I move from side to side, I get more range on my right versus my left. And I could feel where it's stuck. It's kind of like around my shoulder blade region.
Okay.
And yeah, and I would have to say my left serratus, so everything on my left side is a lot weaker than my right.
Yeah, and it's totally normal to have imbalances side to side, but we can bring back some balance to that as well. I want to ask you a little bit more about that monthly headache where you felt the pressure building, and you might not want to answer this online, and that's okay too. So it might just be something that you think about and you don't have to answer unless you want to, of course. But I'm just curious if there's a certain time of month, or was it like always the same time of month when the headache starts to arise? Is there a certain activity that is maybe like triggering it? Is there an added stress? Just starting to think about and maybe build some awareness around, what else is going on during the time when that pressure starts to arise. Is it happening like over the course of a day, or is it happening over the course of a week? Or do you kind of slowly feel it build over the whole month?
I slowly feel it building over the course of the month. So call it the first week, I get the headache, it disappears, the pressure starts to, the pain starts to let go a little bit, like that tension. And then week 1, pretty good. Week 2, I can feel a little tightness. Week 3, I can kind of like the slightest low grade headache. Week 4, and as the days progress, it just gets more and more. And it literally I can feel it's in my traps. And it starts to build up through my neck. And it would be, sometimes I would feel it in my jaw, not every month, but if it's severe, I could feel it in my jaw as well as pulling on my head. And so it's literally like this wave that comes over me. And in terms of, is it related to my menstrual cycle? Probably not, because my menstrual cycle is it's literally down here. I don't really get headaches from my menstrual cycle. However, sometimes it gets aggravated if I start doing too many shoulder presses, or if I'm riding my bike that I haven't been riding in a while, so that pressure on my shoulders, that tends to make it worse as well.
Okay, that's a really great awareness to have. So then you're starting to recognize some of the things that are correlated to like an increase in that pain. So as load increases with those certain activities, that could be a sign that's a little bit too much and that we need to add some intervention sooner. So if we had more time, we could actually like sit down and kind of like map out each kind of stage. So you kind of have a baseline where it's like, okay, I did something, I had some kind of intervention and I feel really good. And then there's a steady kind of decline to where that headache kind of culminates, or like that pain culminates at the worst point. And so there's all these little steps in between. And so then we can map that out, and then what comes before or around each of those things. And then maybe, through the work that we do in yoga therapy or other things that you're doing that finds relief, you can start to intervene at that higher point so you don't have to go down each of those steps as progressively. And so that's something that I help people kind of figure out, and it can unfold over time as our awareness grows around that.
Right.
So that might be something that's worth exploring. So I'm just going to ask one more quick question, just because it's very, very interesting. How do you get out of that cycle? What brings you out of that cycle and brings you kind of back to a place where you're not feeling that?
So one thing that I did do that got me out of the cycle was going to see an osteopath. So I had seen chiropractic and massage does nothing, shiatsu does nothing, because it's just alleviating the problem temporarily. It's not getting to the root cause. Mm-hmm. So I realized that doesn't help. So I decided to go see an osteopath, and she did, I don't know what she does because I don't really understand osteopath. However, she fixed it in one shot. And the reason why I'm getting the headaches again is because since I saw her last, I had went cross-country skiing and I fell forward. And since then I was supposed to go see her again, and I didn't because the whole coronavirus, the whole lockdown. So I started feeling that same pressure building, and I happened to have seen a chiropractor yesterday, so that alleviated. I took an Advil on the weekend because I could feel it building. And I took an Advil, it got rid of it, and that pressure alleviated a little bit, and then I saw a chiropractor yesterday. So those things that I do, chiropractic, Advils, massage, it's just temporary fixes. It doesn't fix the problem. And what I have been doing just in the last week or so is doing more of these chin tucks to strengthen these front neck muscles here.
Okay. So why don't we start there? We'll explore some like head and neck movements, and then we can bring that into some other areas. So this isn't typically something that I start with people because you need to have a lot of body awareness, which I think you have. So we can start with this.
Okay.
So yeah, I think, can you see yourself on the screen? Because this is helpful to do in front of a mirror. Because if we can't feel what's happening in our body, we can at least see.
Right. Yeah. No, I can totally see. And you can see me too, right?
Yeah. I can see you perfectly. So the movement is going to be moving the head laterally side to side.
Wow.
And in doing this, we want to keep the torso completely quiet. So we don't want to have kind of that shift forward or back. And also with kind of out the tilt or the rotation.
Oh my goodness, that's so hard.
Yeah, it's super, super hard. But now we want to strengthen some of the muscles that are maybe, so it can be helpful, like bringing your hands right up kind of to the side of your neck, and maybe even have the fingers touch the side of the ears. And then you're just very gently bringing the ear into the hand and then back to center, and then just pause there. So we don't have to go through this quickly. Make sure you're breathing. Sometimes when things get, like when we're super, super focused, we hold our breath.
Right.
And that can create more
really
tension.
Hard.
Yeah.
I mean, this is about as much as I can do.
Yeah.
When you do that, I was like, wow, how did you do that?
So when I started, it was like, nope, that's not quite, nope, that's not quite it. Nope, that's not quite it. And it was just, it's a little bit of trial and error with our movement sometimes. So I was like, okay, I feel something moving. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to reset and then try it again. And so sometimes when we're learning a new movement pattern, that it takes a while for the body and the mind to connect and integrate that. So you just have to keep doing it over and over and over. And I don't mean like 100 times all at once, but like over the course of a week or sometimes a couple of weeks. And it might just take like a day or two to get the pattern. Yeah, and so you're doing pretty well. So then we can add on to this. So we can add those chin tucks.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go one side.
Yeah, hang on. Yeah.
Yeah, and then back to center.
Yeah.
And then you'll do the chin tuck.
Yeah.
And then back to center. And then to the other side. And then back to center. And then this time you can go slightly forward.
Forward.
Yep. And then back. To the side. And to center. Back. And then to center. To the side. And to center. And forward.
Wow, I can only look at myself and not you, just so I can concentrate.
Yeah, just watch yourself. I'm going to watch you here.
Side, center, back, center, side.
Yeah, when you go to the side there, can you kind of feel how your shoulder dropped a little? Yeah, cool.
I could tell.
Yeah, so then when that happens, it happens.
Yeah.
Next time, just don't go quite as far. See if you can refine that a little bit more. Make it a little bit smaller.
Yeah, it seems like one side's easier than the other. Looks like.
Yeah, and that sounds like that's like a normal pattern for you. Like run one side.
Yeah.
It's always a little bit. It feels like it's easier. Yeah, and then you can rest. So you don't have to do a ton of those. Like 5 to 10 rounds.
You know what always amazes me when I see you? It's just like, wow, that's so hard, and it's like minuscule.
But it's so simple at the same time, right?
So simple at the same time.
So just move your head a little bit, maybe like dropping the head down or to the side, and just notice how your neck and shoulders feel compared to like what you might feel normally.
Yeah, so right now I could feel definitely my left side's a little tighter than let's say my right side. Well, yeah, a pinch tighter on my left. A pinch.
Yeah.
A pinch tighter. You can probably see it too, right? See that pulling?
Yeah.
And I'm not moving very much, right? Versus, let's say this side, not as much pulling. It's still pulling, but not as much.
And so sometimes what I'll do is like, even before going into movement, like if I know I'm going to be doing this type of practice, I might just be like, okay, how do I feel right now before I do anything? It's like, okay, it's pretty tight. I'll do the movement for a couple of minutes. And then I'll just go back and be like, oh, okay, I don't feel that same stretch, or it feels kind of lighter or more open. Right. And so I'm not saying that's going to be your experience or that should be your experience. But if we start with a baseline, then we can kind of see what the outcome of that movement is. And it might be something that changes over time or that we're not aware of until a little bit later after we do it for a little while.
Right. So
that might be something worth exploring because you did kind of find that challenging.
Crazy. Okay, I'm going to try it again.
Yeah. Yeah. See, now I think what's happening is there's a little bit of fatigue. So now you're starting to like compensate with the turning and the body. So that's the other thing. We don't want to overdo it because we can tire ourselves out and then we just fall into a place where other muscles are going to start to take over and be like, okay, she's too tired.
Right. Okay. Now I think I got it. It takes a moment to.
Yeah, I would just rest now. I think your body's getting tired.
So it's these muscles, it's the side neck muscles you're engaging, right? Because if you're moving your head from, I know I'm overanalyzing again. Yeah,
you're getting into your head and thinking about like, okay, these are the muscles. Like when our movement is like when we're moving well, we don't have to think about what muscles are going to engage because they're just going to do it. Right. So if we know what the intended movement is, then that's our aim. And if we see that we're moving in a way other than that, then we can refine it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna trust that you have like a strap or a resistance band or something like that.
You know I have this kind of stuff.
Okay. Now I'm wondering, we should have maybe talked about this before we started the video, but I'm wondering if there's a place that you can like loop it around, like maybe the bottom of your couch, in a pretty big loop, because what I want you to be able to do is to loop your hand and then stand up so your arm is being held away from the side of your body.
Ah, okay.
So either like around a chair or a piece of furniture.
That's going to be a bit of a challenge, I think.
If you can't, then we can do it without, and then you can try it with the strap
Yeah,
later.
that's not gonna be possible. I don't have
Okay.
to hook it around.
That's okay. So if we were to do it with the strap, you would loop it around, say like a chair, so it's being held out to the side, and then you're holding onto the strap. And then, this is hard, the video. So you can kind of see this is like, just pretend it's looped around something, and then your arm's being held out to the side, and you're relaxed. So I'm going to, just let your arm come down a little bit. And then, so the move, actually turn, so your hand with the loop on it, is facing me. Okay. So from there, you're going to take that, that's your right side, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, just sometimes it gets mirrored and then it gets funny. Okay, just so we know what side we're talking about here. So you're going to take that right shoulder blade, you're going to slide it up, not the arm. You're going to leave the arm as if the arm's being held. Right. So the arm is not creating the movement.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
just the shoulder blade.
Yes.
So we're taking the shoulder blade up.
Yep.
And then down.
Okay, hang on. I got a bra on here. Let's see if we can do this. This might be better for you, right?
Yeah,
so,
maybe even turn. Yeah, let's start with this view. Yeah, that's good actually. Okay, so you're going to take that right shoulder blade up and then down. And so the act of the blade coming up is going to come slightly forward. So it might look like the front of the shoulder is coming slightly forward, right. But we're not driving that with the arm.
Right. Just a shoulder.
We're going to let it come through the blade. And then down. And so in the act of isolating the shoulder blade, we just want to check in and see what's happening on the left side. Is the left shoulder moving with the right? No. And if it is, I don't think it is, but if somebody's practicing this at home, if you notice that the left side's going as well, I would say go smaller with your right shoulder blade until you quiet that left side down.
Right. Yeah.
And the same thing, if you start to feel some movement, because sometimes our low back muscles will compensate and want to do the work for the shoulder blade. So if you feel something happening in the low back, I would just pause for a moment and then go again smaller with the shoulder blade.
So you want to move your shoulder blade versus moving the tops of your shoulder.
Yes. Yeah, so we don't want to use the upper trap, so we don't want to bring the shoulder blade up towards the ear. And so we're really just tuning in to that shoulder blade. I know it can be hard, like if sometimes that shoulder blade can be really stuck and it doesn't really want to move. So our body can find like all kinds of ways to make up for that. So it can be helpful to have someone have their hands on your shoulder blade. Sometimes what I do, because I have the range of motion, I can bring my opposite hand around and find the bottom of my shoulder blade.
Yep. And
then I can kind of just gently help guide it up.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, because so we can see it and you can probably feel it moving. And it looks like you're getting a little bit of a side bend, and it could just be because you have your arm behind your back. So if you look at me, Amy, I kind of see this happening a little bit. And it could just be because you have the arm behind your back and you're doing that. Right. But we just want to make sure that a side bend isn't happening, and that's just the shoulder blade.
There, is that better? I think that's better, right?
Yeah. Stay facing me so I can watch you. Okay, bring your left arm down and try it without your arm. Yeah, you're still getting it. You're getting a tiny little bit to the side, and it's coming a little bit more through your upper body. Okay, I don't know if you can see it or feel it. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. So what Amy's doing, she's just making her movement a little bit smaller. She's not going up quite as far. And in doing that now, her torso is staying neutral, and it's just the shoulder blade moving. So we're just bringing more control and coordination into this area. And there's so many muscles that come across and behind and in front of the shoulder blade. So we're improving kind of the harmony of how all those tissues and muscles work together. And in doing so, it's going to help soften out some of these other areas that we're compensating and doing the work for the shoulder blade.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So try the other side now.
Okay, yeah, because this is my problem side, my left side. Yeah. So let's see.
So bring your arm just a little bit away from your body. Yeah. And this is one of the reasons why I like to use the strap, because it kind of holds the arm in place so that we can be a little bit more aware of if it's getting involved. And just remember to breathe.
This side seems easier unless I'm doing it wrong, oddly enough.
Well, the brain and the body kind of like primed on the other side.
Right.
So it's kind of like it already knows what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
That seems easier.
Yeah, turn around and face the other way just so we can see your shoulder blade moving.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, and then you can let that relax.
Okay.
And just, yeah, notice how your arms and shoulders feel just at this moment.
It feels like they're lower. My shoulders are sitting less up here and more like my shoulder blades feel lower.
Nice. Nice.
Wow. Cool. It's just such a brain, like it hurts my head thinking these little.
Yeah.
So interesting.
And then if we wanted to explore further, I don't think we really have time to do that now. Mm-hmm. But sometimes what I'll do is like I'll bring people into, a standing pose, like it could be a squat or a pyramid where you're kind of hinging from your hips. And then we look at the movements happening at the hips, right?
Yes.
So then we're looking at how does the head and the neck respond? How do the shoulders respond? So sometimes like when people are squatting, they're like pushing their head forward. Or like if we're doing maybe like a side bend, we're focusing more on the connection between the pelvis and the ribs, but then the head is initiating the movement. And so that's creating a lot of like extra tension and work up here that the head and neck don't have to do. And we should be able to connect more through like the pelvis.
Wow.
So there's so much that we can bring into it. So it's not just, okay, I have a pain in my shoulder, I'm going to go after the tissue in the shoulder, but we're looking at the relationships between the parts. And so when we can improve those relationships and how the body moves, then pain starts to go away and tightness starts to go away and we have more energy and all that good stuff. So
wow, that's amazing. That's
a nutshell of what I do.
It's really amazing. Like people that have chronic issues, this is the kind of stuff that you want to be doing, right? Because it's the patterning, the constant same bad pattern that we do to ourselves, or that their body wants to do, and need to somehow get out of that pattern. And this is the type of stuff that you do.
Yeah, and it can be so great for athletes. Like if you're a weightlifter and you want to get to like that next level, but you're kind of like hitting up against the ceiling. It's like, what can we just like slightly tweak or change? And it might just be a tiny movement like this that's going to change like your weight grade, or maybe it's going to like make you run faster, like shave some time off your marathon time, or let you run a little bit faster or go for a longer walk without that like nagging hip pain after. Wow. So there can be many applications, and it might just be stress management. So that's part of the process, is kind of having a chat and figuring out what do you really want, and then letting me help you get there.
Right. I love it. That was really great. I think you know what, going through an experience like this or seeing something like this on video, it really kind of makes you wonder about your own body and the types of activities that you do and what happens to you or how you feel afterwards, right? So for example, if I'm running 10-12K, my lower back is hurting, you know what I mean? And it happens every single time. Or if you're weightlifting and you've got a little bit more of an extension through your back as I start to lift heavier, that's a problem that I need to fix, and so on, right? Or even my neck issues that I'm having from all the falls that I've had, right? Well,
yeah. So sometimes it's like, let's just dial back a little bit. Maybe instead of running 10K, maybe we're running 8K, and we can really build some stamina around that, and then build, or like maybe take the weight down a little bit, do some little tweaking, improve movement patterns, and then slowly progress so the pain doesn't have to come back.
Right. I love it. Oh my goodness.
Pain is a signal, right? It's like our body's way of speaking to us that like something's not working for us, and when we ignore it and we ignore it and we ignore it, it's just going to come back louder, and it's going to be more pervasive, and it's going to last longer. It's not going to go away. So if you can resolve those underlying issues, then you're going to be great.
Right. Well, that's very helpful, Lindsay. I really appreciate that. And it certainly makes it easier for me to refer business to you, right? because it's like, how do you explain that to people unless you experience it? It's like, oh, and it's completely the opposite of what we normally would do when we exercise, right? It's completely the opposite. That's what I realized. Like even those tiniest little moves, when we exercise, we have big range that we're trying to do, right? Whether it's a front lift or lateral raise or whatever it may be. Those are typically big ranges of motion. If this is bothering you, how do you fix that, right?
Yeah. So I'm just kind of dialing it back to the component parts so that you can, do those things that you want to do.
Yeah, and that's great that you can do it over Zoom, because I've been teaching classes over Zoom, and I can pick people off, and you know how there's like a bunch of people at the top and you're like the main screen. I could see from like 4 or 5 feet back, it's like, okay, this person's head's in the wrong position, and so on and so on. And I could see that your eye is very well trained, that you can see the slightest little move. Even I didn't even feel it, me swaying my hips from side to side, and you noticed it right away.
Yeah. And so helping you bring awareness to that, then you can refine your movement, because we can't change anything that we're not aware of, like, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me. This is really great.
Thank you again for coming back. And so ladies, yoga therapy, movement therapy is what it is. And if you have any chronic issues that keep coming back and back, be sure to reach out to Lindsay if you have any questions, and she's available. All right. Thanks so much, ladies. Thanks again, Lindsay.
Thanks. Have a great day.